We all collect something, whether that's stamps, shoes, art, or anything in between. So what makes a collection a collection? Psychoanalyst Werner Munsterberger defined a collection as the selecting, gathering, and keeping of objects of subjective value. For example, I have a collection of 10 football and rugby scarves from games I have watched and have been a part of. They've been sitting in a sack in my childhood bedroom for years, with no use or organisation or as much of a thought. Yet they still hold that subjective value to me that makes it into a collection. Walter Benjamin describes ownership as the most intimate relationship that one can have to objects. This is Jefferson Burdick. He is known by card collectors as the father of collecting thanks to his collection of around 300,000 pieces of ephemera, including 30,000 baseball cards. The baseball cards themselves are presumed to be worth millions of dollars today, but they will never reach the marketplace because Burdick gave it all to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. It was never about the money for him as collector. Paul Woolworth describes collecting as eating with your eyes, a statement that Burdick agrees with by saying card collecting is primarily inherited love for pictures. His subjective value for each one of his cards is higher than any price tag you can ever put on it. When he requested to put his huge collection into the Metropolitan Museum, he was allowed under one condition. He had to organise it all himself. So he did. The last 16 years of his life were dedicated to creating and designing the American Card Catalogue, a book that sorted cards by classifications and gave issues a special designation to allow collectors to easily recognise them. He also pasted and displayed all 300,000 cards into 640 albums in the only available corner of the department in the museum. This simple act of visual communication helped make the whole overwhelming collection legible and interesting for an outsider seeing the objects without the subjective attachment that exists for Burdick himself. So is this subjective viewpoint needed for a collection? After asking 30 different people about their personal collections, 60% collected objects as a part of their interest in the subject, while 40% collected as a way to memorise a certain time or place and associate it with each individual object. They were almost all curated by themselves and collected due to each person's personal ties to each object. This means that all of the collections needed a subjective viewpoint to make the collection interesting to someone, while 40% of them are only cohesive collection in the eyes of the collector and absolutely no one else. Given that nearly all of the collections comprise of interesting individual and unique objects, what's the point of keeping it all within a collection? 6 of the 30 people surveyed agreed that every piece is original, yet went on to say that the collection was able to elevate the less interesting pieces and enhances the appeal of each object while held together within a collection. This statement applies to Burdick's collection, where, for example, the 1909 Honus Wagner baseball card is now worth $6.6 million US, whereas less unique and interesting cards are worth almost nothing today. They are, however, still part of Burdick's collection because they are part of a bigger whole and complement the rest of the cards together. The beauty of collecting is that not every group needs to be the best, it can simply be a singular part within a fully realised group. Michael Reed, an Australian art dealer and critic, once said, "An art collection is formed when there exists an inherent dialogue between the artworks within the group that informs the viewer of the story, and when this overall narrative, in relation to a group of artworks, is higher than any single constituent. When the body speaks, then you have an art collection." Ed Ruscha is one of the most iconic American artists of the 20th century thanks to his decades spent systematically photographing Southern California's built environments, including vacant parking lots, swimming pools, and night spots. which he made into wordless books such as Every Building on the Sunset Strip and the crudely named 26 Dallas Police Stations, creating every book in a way that went against the craftsmanship and luxury status that typified the artist books of the time in favour of the artistic idea or concept ruling the book. Collecting thousands of photos, mostly of mundane buildings and objects, to create into artist books through one similarity between each photo creates a new objective view into how these photos are perceived. Various Small Fires and Milk is simply a collection of 15 photos of small fires and a singular photo of a glass of milk. What brings these together? I don't know. But the collection of these images into one cohesive book and the immensely deadpan title do bring it together. The role of design within collections can create order within a group of seemingly separate objects. It can bring it all together into one space and give context to their similarities. For example, what is the difference between a spare coin jar and a coin collection? Both are collected, both are kept in a single place, but one set is designed and given context to the individual pieces, and what connects them to each other and the collector. This ties to the visual communication of everyday objects that you see all around you, and how items are catalogued in supermarkets, libraries, or even within books. Visual communication is described as the practice of graphically representing information to efficiently and effectively create meaning. Through effective visual communication, the Patrick Fry Studio have managed to turn a meaningless collection of clay blocks into a visual index of 155 bricks in their new book, The Brick Index. The book focuses on bricks and the unseen maker's marks stamped by brickworkers from across the UK. It celebrates the humble brick, relishing the textures, colours and graphics debossed into their thuds, which would otherwise be overlooked in a group of bricks. The organisation created in their design process has allowed for the bricks to be given extra meaning and a cohesive story between each individual, while still allowing for them to complement each other within a collection. So what do all these collections have in common? Even when there are great unique objects within them, they are better together, allowing for a collection to create a narrative and a context within the objects. When organised and designed in a specific way, it can give a collection the meaning and bring them even more together into a similar goal. While this isn't the case everywhere, many collections bring the sum of many unique parts that speak for themselves. In most cases, the unique and interesting parts of the collections can elevate the more mundane and simplistic.